So I want to start off like I often start off. The games industry is pretty wild right now. As you look out there at the state of game dev, you probably have an interesting perspective on this, both being based in Slovakia and also being primarily in that sort of mobile UA environment. Like, what are you seeing? What do you think about where games are at today?
Come on, like every year is the same thing. Everybody is crying. It's like, oh, it's tough. We need to survive to 25, and now 25 is there. It's like, oh, everybody's crying again. It's February. I mean, welcome to the gaming industry. It's never gonna be easy, and it's gonna be harder from now on all the time. I mean, it's how it is. That's how it is. The landscape, especially on UA, changed quite a lot, and also thanks to the iOS changes and everything. And Google is preparing not the same thing, but very similar thing with privacy, and it's gonna change again. So people are gonna cry again, and we are gonna adapt again, as everybody else. The iOS privacy changes help smaller developers a little bit because I mean there was a big kind of trend of hyper casual games. They had to shift to hybrid casual game, which is also kind of I I don't know if I can say helping the industry, but it's opening up a different direction that it wasn't there before. So now the hybrid casual games are they are kind of trending already for some time, but still they're borrowing the best from both the worlds on the hyper casual side from the marketing perspective because those games had really low CPIs, and thanks to that, the whole DPI versus LTV equation could work. And now the hybrid casual games are borrowing that part of the equation, but they're borrowing the part of the equation of the casual game, the LTV side. So it can very interesting times that we are living at the moment. And again, as I said before, I love it. I was always very positive about the games and the UA, and when people are talking about the gaming industry is dead, the mobile UA is dead, it's not that at all. So, yeah,
Got it. Now
no,
you said as part of that, it's gotten harder and it's going to continue to get harder, and that's just the reality of games.
yeah,
What you mentioned iOS changes and Google potentially making some changes to privacy policies, things like that. Is there anything else that you see out there that's also driving that? Like, look, this is hard and it's going to keep getting harder. That's just the nature of the beast.
yeah. Well, the times where we had Facebook as the one channel on the UA side, then Google came into the mix, which is two bigger channels. And that was basically it, which is kind of 7, 8, 9 years ago. It Yeah, it's not that landscape anymore. So now instead of running one or two channels, you're running 10, and that's the very big, not a very big problem, but that's the difficult part because you need to
Mm-hmm.
now manage more channels. You need to know how those channels work. I'm pretty sure you are hearing about the Uplavin and their success. So it's you need to manage that, and it complete is working completely differently than the Facebook and TikTok and Google. So you need to know how these work to make your game successful and how to grow successfully as well.
Got it. Okay.
That
Okay. So there's both changes in privacy policy. There's also the proliferation of channels that people are having to interact with, and that means you got to stay on top of a lot more things as you do this. Okay. All right.
And there's also one important thing which is the creative part, and that's getting also a little bit. I can't say sophisticated, but kind of a little bit more complex because back in the days where you could just run creatives in the gameplay creatives, yeah, you don't see those that often these days.
What do you mean by that? Talk to me like what you said. You
Oh
could
yeah.
run the play creatives. You don't see that as much.
So think about this. Like a few years ago, you just put a video out there which is showcasing your gameplay, and people are like, "Oh, yeah, this looks good. Let's play." You do this now, let's say in a match 3 game or a 4x strategy game, and you will be your cost per install will be maybe $80, which which is quite a lot of money for one player. And now the creative kind of helps to decrease this number. On the other hand, that kind of the approach to creatives, they're not showcasing the gameplay. at the best, I call it altered gameplay. So you basically take your act from your game, and then you build scenes that are not really in the game, but actually connected to the game. But now you have Whiteout Survival, you have Dark War, Last War, you have all these different strategy games that are using game mechanics from different genres in their creatives because they want to decrease the CPI so much. So it kind of, you get majority of the players for low CPI, so that the CPI versus LTV equation works afterwards. That's why the creative approach makes it very difficult. And then you see all the fake ad, misleading ad, which is kind of partially true what I just said. But then you have, oh yeah, so
So like one, we're gonna have to talk about terms just to make sure
yeah,
everybody's on the same
of
page.
course,
But so you mentioned CPI, cost per install, LTV, lifetime value.
yes.
We'll probably define those later in this for people who that they're somewhat intuitive, but there's probably nuance there. When I hear you talk about that, it's funny. The two games that come to mind. One is Raid Shadow Legends, where I feel like they do the altered thing, where there's like, hey, these are game assets, but maybe put in a slightly different environment, or more like what you'd almost see. Frankly, something like a PC game doing, like League of Legends has their sort of cinematic trailers. They're characters from the game. They're not even game assets. They're completely done cinematically. But then they kind of run through and fight each other, and it's like, this is League of Legends. Even though if you were to play League of Legends, it's like that's not quite the experience that you have. Certainly not the camera angle, at least. And then you have something like Hero Wars, which I think in the West at least is the one that's famous for actually creating like a sort of what looks like an entertaining mini puzzle. And then you're like, oh, I want to play this game. And then you get in and it's like, it's nothing. It's nothing at all
So
like anything that you saw.
yeah, so there are Reddit or subreddits around Hero Wars where people are just coming and saying like, "Hey, where are the puzzle games? Where are the puzzle levels? I'm playing this for 3 years and I'm waiting for a new puzzle to appear again in the game again." Well, guess what? Well, they won't, and this is the part of that illusion that you showcase this in the creative, and then people come and download the game expecting this is gonna be the game. I'm actually going to post one interesting post about the Hero Wars because I wrote an article about them being an OG of fake ads
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
they went from this evolution of showcasing the actual gameplay and CGI trailers to using the pull the pin mechanics that were shown in play almost all the players games. So you
Yeah.
have a
Yep.
puzzle which you are pulling the pins from lava or whatever else.
Yep.
Then they went from there, and as soon as they've done that, their revenue increased dramatically. It went by 10x. Then they went from that to these towers and numbers. So you were attacking from left to right in different towers, and then based on the numbers, you won or you were defeated. And then they transformed that to what you just mentioned, and now they are using the gates mechanics from Laughter and other Forex games. And I was just checking the credits today. It's all over the place because these days you need to find, you're not kind of trying to identify the personas like in the marketing, like, oh well, we need to go for this person, which is, I don't know, Ben from US, and you are a sports fan and whatever else, you love food and whatever. Now you kind of try to identify the game mechanics that works and that can you translate to your game basically, and in this case drive down the CPIs. So that's why I was saying this is quite difficult now because it's not really the classic marketing from the way back before.
Yeah. Well, I remember watching, I can't remember, I'm sure there's more than one of these, but someone talking about, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go make a game studio where I make the game that is actually the ads for the other games that are not actually in the games. Because it seems like people want that because those ads survive and people keep clicking on them. And this, honestly, we'll dive into this later since it's come up of just the what do you do with that? Like from a morality perspective of like the bait and switch and all this, because to your point around revenue growth, I mean, it works. I got my CPI down, so I guess from there, let's transition in, and we can maybe go into this as like
No, we can go. Yeah, it's very interesting and very important to talk about this because this is going into the area not only fake ads but usually like that's the start and then they transition to anything sexist and really
yeah.
in that
What
and
was
that's terrible.
what was the old Forex game? Was it Evo or something? There was some
Mm,
there was
That
one like it was the I think it is the OG of this where it was just like the game like there'd be an ad and there would be a an attractive cartoon woman in the
yeah,
ad, and it was like there was and the game had nothing to do with any of
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. And you have then freezing families. Basically, you have a woman who is kind of in the snow and her baby is freezing to death. I mean, like this is terrible. This is terrible, but it works because it creates drama, it draws attention, and decreases the CPIs. And people will use it because it helps to make revenue. Is it immoral? Absolutely no. Is it gonna be banned from the platforms? No, because they make also money. So
Yeah.
it uh, it is really. I
Yeah.
mean, but this is it's tough. And I just had this post last week on my LinkedIn because I've seen few games coming from China where they take the Scrooge and Puzzle game, which is now cloned by millions of companies. They're taking the makeover, so you basically a project makeover that Apple haven't just sold. It's a puzzle game where you kind of a female character and you just do makeover, makeup, hair, and different things. But it so gross now. It's just you're doing like pimples, it's hairy legs, and all of these different stuff, the body shaming, and yeah, it's in there in those creatives, and some people are just defending this, like, it works because people, like this stuff. It's 75 million views when you just look at someone just just crashing pimples. It's like people like to watch this. Does it mean we need to really put this into the creatives? No. So like these
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
it's like very different different angles how you can approach this. So yeah, it's an interesting time where we are living in.
They had a they've had some real good ones lately because they've started to go into like poking at game dev, and it's hilarious because they're actually pretty insightful. Um, but they had one a while ago, and it was girls dancing on TikTok. And it was like, hey, I don't want to see all the girls dancing on TikTok. And just like someone talking to TikTok, and the TikTok is like, yeah, well, I mean, I think you do. And he's like, no, I don't. And he's like, oh yeah, well, like, look at this. And he's like, wait, what? Why'd you just show me girls? I just said I didn't want to see that. And he's like, yeah, but you looked at it for like 3/10 of a second longer than the other video. And he's like, well, I mean, it's girls, but like, I don't want to watch that. It's not what I'm here for. And he's like, are you sure? Here, let's bring in some more. And it was just this, there's a weird thing, which is, well, it works, and does that justify? And it's interesting because there's a moral philosophy there that's something like the ends justify the means, which is actually a very poor holistic moral philosophy, in my opinion. You get a lot of really bad things when you run that to its logical conclusion.